Welcome back, everybody, for another deep dive. This time, we're going to be looking at the book of Exodus.
Oh,
And specifically, we'll be focusing on some key chapters and verses paired with reflections from different perspectives.
okay.
And I gotta say, just looking over this material beforehand, I was really kind of blown away by, just the sheer depth of the stories and the reflections.
Yeah.
It's really something.
It's a pretty incredible book.
Yeah.
It's foundational text for sure.
Yeah.
And it continues to resonate.
Well, and that's what I think is so fascinating about it is that, it's a text that thousands of years later we're still kind of grappling with,
Right.
and finding new meaning in.
Yeah, and I think the book of Exodus isn't just about a physical escape from slavery.
Right.
It's about the human quest for liberation on a much deeper level.
Mm-hmm.
It grapples with, the formation of a covenant,
Yeah.
the complexities of faith,
Yeah.
and what it truly means to be in relationship with a higher power.
Yeah, and that's what I think is so interesting too about it is that, we start off, immediately with the Israelites in Egypt,
Right.
facing this really brutal oppression.
Yeah.
But, we see in Exodus 1.12 that it says, the more they were oppressed, the more they multiplied and spread.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's almost this kind of counterintuitive idea
Yeah.
that, this group of people facing such adversity is actually thriving under pressure.
Was resilience, right? It's like it speaks to that remarkable resilience that can emerge
Right.
in the darkest of times.
Yeah.
And, for the Israelites, their shared belief system,
Yeah.
their faith in a God who saw their suffering might have been a source of strength and unity for them.
Absolutely.
And I think that's a reminder for us, too, that hope can flourish in the most unexpected places.
And then, we're introduced to this, incredible figure of Moses.
Yeah.
And his story is incredible even before we get to the burning bush. He's abandoned as a baby,
Right.
raised in Pharaoh's court. Then he's forced to flee after defending a Hebrew.
Right.
It's like a hero's origin story.
Yeah, it really is. And it's in that exile that he encounters God at the burning bush.
Yeah.
Which is one of the most iconic scenes, I think, in religious history.
Absolutely.
And God reveals his name to Moses there.
Right.
I am, WHOIM.
Yeah.
This declaration of eternal, unchanging existence.
Right.
Which must have been incredibly powerful for someone like Moses facing so much uncertainty in his life.
Yeah, and I think that's what's so interesting about it too is that, even with this divine encounter,
Right.
Moses isn't exactly ready to jump into action.
Right.
He questions God.
Yeah.
And we see that in Exodus 5.22-23, where he says, "Why have you brought trouble upon this people? Is this why you sent me?"
Right.
And it's such a human reaction, It's like, he's going up against Pharaoh.
Right.
It's a pretty big ask.
Yeah, and that's what's so compelling, I think, about this portrayal of Moses, is that it acknowledges that doubt is a natural part of faith.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about blind obedience.
Right.
It's about wrestling with these really difficult questions, even challenging the divine.
Yeah.
I mean, this resonates with, I think, all of our experiences, right? And we all have those moments when we question,
Yeah.
when we struggle, but then we ultimately choose to trust in something larger than ourselves.
Right, and that trust is put to the test
Yeah.
as we move into the story of the plagues.
Right.
And you've got the Nile turning into blood, swarms of gnats, darkness engulfing the land.
Yeah.
These aren't just random acts of chaos.
Well,
It feels very intentional, and what I'm struck by is how each plague seems to directly challenge the power of the Egyptian gods.
absolutely.
It's almost like a showdown between these divine forces.
Right, and each plague was a symbolic attack on a specific aspect of Egyptian belief.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, the Nile turning to blood wasn't just a natural disaster.
Right.
It was direct affront to Hapi, the god of the Nile, who represented life and fertility for them.
Right.
And so this undermines, the foundation of their society, their beliefs, and ultimately Pharaoh's authority.
Yeah, and throughout all of this, the Israelites are protected.
Right.
And we see in Exodus 8.22 where God says, "But on that day, I will deal differently with the land of Goshen where my people live." And it's just this constant reminder of, this divine favor,
Right.
even as chaos is unfolding all around them. And it makes you think about, what that experience must have been like for the Israelites to witness their God's power firsthand.
Yeah.
Do you think that created a sense of us versus them?
It's a great question.
Yeah.
Because, experiencing this level of divine intervention would certainly have reinforce their sense of being chosen and protected.
Right.
But it also raises questions about how they perceive those outside of their community, particularly the Egyptians who were suffering.
Right.
Did this experience cultivate empathy, or did it create a greater divide?
Right.
That's a complex issue that the text doesn't fully explore.
Yep.
But it's certainly something worth considering.
Yeah, and it definitely adds another layer to the story.
Yeah.
And this protection kind of culminates in the Passover,
Right.
which is such a powerful and enduring symbol.
Yes.
You know, the blood on the doorposts marking their homes for protection. It's an image that really stays with you.
And it's not just a physical marking, right?
Right.
It represents a deeper spiritual truth. This idea that faith can shield us from harm.
Yeah.
And the Passover ritual, even today, reminds us of that moment when God chose to spare those who trusted in him.
Right.
But it also raises questions about divine justice. What about those who weren't spared?
Right.
Did they lack faith? Or were they victims of circumstance?
Yeah.
And this is a question that has been debated for centuries.
Right, and it really, I think, emphasizes that tension that we see in this story
Yeah.
between, you know, divine power
Right.
and human understanding. And of course, you know, we can't forget about the dramatic escape through the Red Sea.
Right.
You know, the image of the waters parting,
Yeah.
creating this path to freedom.
Yeah.
I mean, it's breathtaking.
It's a pivotal moment. And it's
Yeah.
not just an escape. It's a symbolic rebirth.
Yeah.
They're passing through these waters, leaving behind slavery and stepping into this new, unknown future.
Right.
The Red Sea crossing isn't just about physical liberation.
Yeah.
It's about the possibility of transformation, of leaving behind old identities and embracing this new way of being.
It's almost like a baptism, you know, this cleansing from the past.
Right.
But of course, you know, this new beginning isn't without its challenges.
Right.
And, you know, they're now in the wilderness. They're
Yeah.
facing these harsh realities of survival.
Yeah.
But even here, God provides for them in these really extraordinary ways.
Right.
You know, manna from heaven, quail from meat, water from a rock. It's like a constant reminder that they're not alone.
And yet, despite these miracles,
Right.
Exodus describes the Israelites complaining.
Yeah.
They grumble about the food.
Right.
They long for the comforts of Egypt.
Yeah.
It's fascinating how, even when their basic needs are met,
Yeah.
even when they're witnessing divine intervention, they still find reasons to be dissatisfied.
It's a very human response, though, isn't it? I mean,
it is.
maybe it reveals something about the nature of faith.
Yeah.
You know, the struggle to maintain trust, even when you're facing the unknown.
Yeah.
I mean, they've been liberated from physical slavery.
Right.
But are they truly free from their internal anxieties and doubts?
That's a profound question, and I think their physical journey mirrors an internal one.
Yeah.
They're learning to trust God to rely on his provision. But their complaints, their longing for the familiar,
Yeah.
reveal their internal struggle to embrace this new reality.
Right.
It's a process,
Yeah.
a journey of faith
Yeah.
that unfolds over time.
It doesn't happen overnight.
Right.
It's a process. Absolutely. And that's what I think is so interesting about, you know, this story and the way that it's told.
Yeah.
Is that it really does kind of capture that internal struggle as well
Yeah.
as that external struggle.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that we can all relate to.
Right.
You know, no matter what our background is or what our belief system is,
Yeah.
I think we can all relate to that feeling of wanting something more, even when we have everything that we need.
Yeah.
And I think that's what makes this story so powerful.
It's a timeless story.
Yeah,
It's a story that speaks to the human condition.
absolutely.
And I think that's why it continues to resonate with us today.
Yeah, and that's what's so exciting about this deep dive is that we're going to really kind of unpack that and explore that.
Yeah.
And see what kind of insights we can glean from this ancient text.
I'm excited to see where this conversation takes us.
Me too.
Yeah.
Well, I think this is a good place to pause for now.
Okay.
And we'll pick up next time with the rest of this journey.
Sounds good.
All right, everybody. So stay tuned, and we'll see you back here soon.
Okay, then.
Makes you wonder, right? Like, if that struggle is part of being human, that
Yeah.
tension between gratitude and yearning for something more.
Yeah.
But amidst, you know, all that, we have this incredible moment of revelation.
Right.
The giving of the 10 Commandments at Mount Sinai.
Yeah.
You know, Exodus 20.3 lays it out. You shall have no other gods before me. It's a powerful statement about, you know, priority and allegiance.
It's a foundational statement, I think.
Yeah.
It's establishing the core of their covenant with God.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not just about avoiding other deities.
Right.
It's about recognizing that there's this hierarchy of values.
Yeah.
Placing God first
Right.
implies a commitment to a certain way of life,
Mm-hmm.
a moral framework that guides their actions.
And that framework extends beyond the Ten Commandments, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, Exodus includes a whole collection of laws and instructions.
Right.
Covering everything from social justice to personal injury.
Yeah.
It's like God is establishing this blueprint for a just and ethical society.
Absolutely. Exodus chapters 21, 23.
Yeah.
Delve into the practical application of these principles.
Mm-hmm.
They address issues of fairness,
Right.
protection for the vulnerable,
Yeah.
even property rights.
It's amazing how, these laws written thousands of years ago
I know.
still resonate with our modern concepts of justice and ethical conduct.
It's true, and it's like they're laying the groundwork
Yeah.
for a society where everyone is treated with dignity and respect.
But even with these divine laws,
Right.
even after experiencing these incredible miracles,
Right.
the Israelites still falter.
Yeah.
That whole incident with the golden calf.
Oh, yeah?
It's almost shocking.
Yeah.
How quickly they turn away from the God who just liberated them.
I know. It's like, didn't we just go through all of this?
I know, it's wild.
It is a stark reminder, I think, of human fallibility.
Yeah.
They've witnessed God's power. They've received his laws,
Right.
and yet
Wow.
they still crave something tangible,
Yeah.
something they can see and touch.
Yeah, it's like that immediate gratification.
Yeah, that instant gratification.
Yeah. Right.
I think it raises a lot of questions about the nature of faith.
Mm-hmm.
How easily it can be shaken,
Ready.
how easily we can slip back into old patterns of behavior.
And makes you wonder if that pull towards the tangible,
Yeah.
towards something we can grasp and control, is something that we still struggle with today.
Absolutely.
I mean, how often do we seek comfort
Right.
in material possessions
Yeah.
or, external validation
Mm-hmm.
rather than trusting in something beyond ourselves?
Right. It's a timeless struggle. The golden calf incident, I think, serves as this cautionary tale,
Right.
reminding us that true faith
Yeah.
requires more than outward rituals or symbolic representations. It demands this deeper surrender,
Right.
a willingness to trust in the unseen,
Yeah.
even when it challenges our comfort zones.
And in that moment of crisis, it's Moses who steps in,
Right.
pleading with God to spare the Israelites.
Right.
We see this in Exodus 33.3. He says, "If you are pleased with me, teach me your ways so I may know you and continue to find favor with you." His compassion, his
Yeah.
willingness to intercede for his people,
Right.
even after this betrayal.
I know.
It's incredibly powerful.
It really highlights the depth of his relationship with God. He doesn't just deliver laws.
Right.
He embodies them.
Yeah.
He models forgiveness,
Right.
empathy,
Yeah.
this unwavering commitment,
Right.
even in the face of disappointment.
Yeah.
And I think it's a reminder that true leadership
Yeah.
isn't about power or control,
Mm-hmm.
but about service and selflessness.
It's an inspiring example.
It is.
Especially in a world that often seems focused on, individual ambition and self-preservation.
Right.
But speaking of, tangible representations,
Okay.
let's talk about the tabernacle.
Right.
Exodus dedicates a significant portion to its construction.
Yeah.
We get all these intricate details about materials, the dimensions and symbolism. It's like a blueprint for creating this sacred space.
And it's more than just a physical structure.
Right.
I mean, the tabernacle represents God's desire to dwell among his people. It's a portable sanctuary.
Yeah.
It's a reminder that the sacred isn't confined to a specific location,
Right.
but can accompany them on their journey.
And I find that idea incredibly beautiful.
Yeah.
This tangible representation of God's presence traveling with them through the wilderness.
Yeah.
But all these instructions, about acacia wood
That's right.
and gold and fine linens.
Yeah.
It seems almost obsessive.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
Perhaps it reflects the human desire to express reverence through tangible means.
Right, yeah.
They're creating a space worthy of God's presence,
Yeah.
using the finest materials,
Yeah.
the most skilled craftsmanship.
Yeah.
And I think it suggests that how we approach even seemingly mundane tasks can be an act of worship,
Right.
an expression of our devotion.
raises questions, though, about the balance
Yeah.
between outward rituals and inner transformation.
Right.
I mean, is the meticulous construction of the tabernacle a
Yeah.
genuine expression of faith?
Right.
Or is it a way to kind of compensate for their internal struggles and doubts?
That's a question that has been debated throughout history.
Right.
Is true piety about external actions or internal transformation?
Right.
Maybe it's both.
Yeah.
Maybe the act of creating something beautiful, of pouring their hearts into this project,
Yeah.
was part of their journey towards a deeper understanding of God.
And then there's this, incredible moment
Yeah.
in Exodus 40.3435,
Okay.
when the tabernacle is complete.
Right.
And it says, "Then the cloud covered the tent of meeting, and the glory of the Lord filled the tabernacle."
Wow.
It's like a seal of approval,
Right.
this tangible manifestation of God's acceptance.
It's a powerful image, isn't it?
Yeah.
The divine presence descending upon this space that they've created with their own hands.
Right?
It suggests that our efforts to create these sacred spaces,
Yeah.
whether they're physical or metaphorical, can be met with this sense of divine grace and affirmation.
It's like they've built this bridge
Yeah.
between the earthly and the divine.
Right.
But that bridge is also portable. The tabernacle wasn't meant to be a stationary structure.
Right.
They carry it with them. This physical manifestation of God's presence accompanying them on their journey.
And that speaks, I think, to a profound truth about faith.
Yeah.
It's not something static,
Right.
confined to a specific time or place. It travels with us,
Yeah.
evolving and deepening as we navigate the challenges and uncertainties of life.
Right.
The portable nature of the tabernacle suggests that the sacred isn't bound by walls or rituals. It resides within us,
Yeah.
guiding and sustaining us wherever we go.
Love that imagery.
Yeah.
The sacred as this constant companion. But, it makes you think about how their journey through the wilderness wasn't easy.
Oh, no.
I mean, they faced hunger and thirst
Yeah.
and, attacks from enemies.
Right.
Even with the tabernacle, as this symbol of God's presence, they must have had moments of doubt and despair.
Absolutely. And Exodus doesn't shy away from those struggles.
Right.
Remember the incident at Rephidim where they complained about the lack of water?
Right.
Exodus 17.6 describes Moses striking the rock
Yeah.
and water gushing forth. But even this miracle is met with grumbling and discontent.
Yeah.
It reveals, I think, the human tendency to focus on what we lack, even when we're being provided for in extraordinary ways.
It's a reminder that, faith isn't a passive acceptance of whatever comes our way.
Right.
It's an active engagement with
Yeah.
our doubts, our fears, and our deepest longings. The Israelites' journey through the wilderness mirrors our own internal struggles.
Yeah.
To trust, to surrender, and to find meaning amidst the challenges of life.
And it's in those moments of struggle
Right.
that we often discover a deeper understanding of ourselves
Yeah.
and our relationship with the divine. The wilderness for the Israelites became a crucible,
Yeah.
a place where their faith was tested and refined.
Yeah, it's like they're being forged in the fire of experience. Their beliefs tested and strengthened through adversity.
And that forging process is essential, I think.
Right, for their growth as individuals and as a community. The wilderness, for all its hardships, becomes a place of transformation. Right. They're learning to rely on God, to depend on each other, and to develop the resilience that they'll need to enter the promised land.
It's incredible
It is.
how this story, continues to resonate with us today.
Right.
Thousands of years later. We may not be wandering through a physical wilderness,
Right.
but we all face challenges.
We do.
And uncertainties and those moments where our faith is tested.
And that's what makes Exodus so compelling.
Right.
It's not just this historical account. It's a reflection of the human experience. The longing for liberation, the struggle to trust, the search for meaning.
Yeah, earlier we were talking about this idea of portable sanctuaries.
Right.
Those spaces, physical or metaphorical, where we can connect with the divine.
And I'm wondering, what does that look like in our modern lives?
Yeah.
How do we create those spaces amidst the busyness and distractions of the 21st century?
That's a question I think a lot of us grapple with. And I think the answer is as diverse as our individual experiences.
Right.
For some, it might be a dedicated space for meditation or prayer. For others, it might be connecting with nature,
Right.
experiencing the awe and wonder of creation.
Yeah.
You know, it could even be as simple as listening to music
Right.
that uplifts our spirits
Yeah.
and reminds us of something larger than ourselves.
It's about finding those practices, those rituals
Right.
that help us to cultivate a sense of presence, an awareness of something beyond the everyday.
Mm-hmm.
I'm reminded of that image, you
Yeah.
know, of the cloud descending upon the tabernacle,
Right.
tangible sign of God's acceptance.
Yeah.
Do you think that we can experience that same sense of divine presence in our own lives?
I d-
Even without a physical tabernacle?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, the tabernacle, with all its intricate details and symbolism, was ultimately a representation of God's desire
Right.
to dwell among his people. And that desire transcends time and place.
Yeah.
You know, it's about creating those internal spaces where we can be open to that presence,
Right.
where we can listen for that still small voice amidst the noise of the world.
In like cultivating an inner sanctuary, a place of peace and connection.
Yeah.
But, you know, the Israelites' journey wasn't all about internal reflection.
Correct.
They also had to navigate the very real challenges of survival in the wilderness.
Right.
Makes me wonder, how do we reconcile that inner journey of faith
Yeah.
with the demands of the external world? How do we live out those values of justice and compassion
Right.
in a world that often seems to prioritize self-interest and competition?
That's the challenge, isn't it?
Yeah.
To bridge the gap between our internal beliefs and our outward actions.
Right.
And I think Exodus offers a powerful model for this integration. You know, the Israelites received the law,
Right.
but they also had to learn how to apply it in their daily lives.
Right.
How to create a society that reflected those principles.
It's a reminder that faith isn't just about personal piety. It's about engaging with the world around us, about working towards justice, compassion, and the well-being of others.
Absolutely. And that's a message that resonates, I think, deeply
Yeah.
in our current context. You know, we face so many challenges,
Right.
social, political, environmental,
Yeah.
that demand our attention and action. Exodus reminds us that we're not meant to be passive observers.
Right.
We're called to be active participants in creating a world
Yeah.
that reflects the values of our faith.
It's a daunting task,
It is.
but also an incredibly inspiring one.
It is.
You know, the Israelites faced seemingly insurmountable obstacles, yet they never gave up hope.
Right.
They kept moving forward, trusting that God would lead them to the promised land.
And their story reminds us that we too can overcome challenges.
Yeah.
That we can be instruments of change. That we can contribute to building a better world.
Right.
You know, it's not about achieving perfection.
Right.
It's about striving. About continuing to move forward even when we stumble or falter.
That idea of continual striving really resonates with me.
Yeah.
It's not about arriving at some final destination, but about embracing the journey
Right.
with all of its twists and turns.
And perhaps that's one of the most enduring lessons of Exodus.
Yeah.
It's a story about liberation, about the ongoing quest for freedom, both internal and external. You know, it's a story that challenges us to confront our own limitations,
Yeah.
to embrace the possibility of transformation,
Right.
and to live lives that are aligned with our deepest values.
It's a story that continues to speak to us
Yeah.
across millennia,
I-
offering guidance, inspiration, and a profound reminder that we're all on this journey together.
And that journey, even with its challenges and uncertainties, is ultimately a journey towards wholeness,
Yeah.
towards a deeper understanding of ourselves,
Right.
our world, and the divine presence that accompanies us every step of the way.
Well said.
Thank you.
And on that note,
Yeah.
we've come to the end of our deep dive into the book of Exodus.
Okay.
I hope this exploration has sparked some new insights,
Yeah.
some fresh perspectives, and perhaps even a renewed sense of wonder.
It's been a privilege to delve into this timeless text with you.
It really has.
Yeah.
May its stories and lessons continue to guide and inspire us as we navigate our own journeys.
Absolutely.
Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
We'll see you next time for another deep dive.